I don't know about you, but recently I have been thinking about Visible a lot. When I sat down to watch a football game, I would see a Visible ad during the commercial break. When I scroll through Facebook or any social media app, really, I see a Visible ad for some promotional deal that they're having. I'll even be watching YouTube and then up pops a Visible ad. It seems the brand recognition is growing for this company, or perhaps I am just maybe paying more attention to it. About 4 months ago, or it'll likely be after 4 months by the time I upload this video, I'm kind of slow, but I made a video when I switched to Visible. This involved everything, like literally everything. I needed a new iPhone and I was sick of my old carrier because I felt that they were charging too much. So I ordered my iPhone through Visible, switched my phone number over to Visible from my old carrier, the whole 9 yards, right? And honestly, it was really not the most seamless process ever, but I did document all of that in the previous video that I made about Visible. I thought this would be an incredibly niche video because who really is switching to Visible, right? But it was outside of the scope of what I would normally make on my channel, but it turns out that now it has almost 1.5 thousand views, and I'm like, wow, maybe there is a little bit of market for some Visible videos because like I mentioned, you've probably seen ads for the service, but you probably want an unbiased, real take on if Visible is worth it, and I've been using it for about 4 months now. I feel like I don't need to mention this, but I just want to be clear that switching to Visible was completely my own choice. Not like I was paid or sponsored to make these decisions. Let's be real, I have under 1,000 subscribers. Who would ever sponsor me besides myself? But if you want an honest opinion of Visible, because I have been using it for 4 months, this is the video for you. And after using this service for about 4 months, I can tell you so far the worst part has actually been switching to it. In all seriousness, I have noticed almost no differences between my previous carrier and Visible. Phone plans are pretty expensive, but with Visible, you're getting probably the best deal you can get with a phone carrier. In my situation, which is likely a similar situation many other people are in, I was paying over $50 a month for a phone plan that worked well, but it had limits on how much data I could use every month. Sure, you have great priority coverage, I guess, but what does that mean if you're just limited to 2 gigabytes of data per month, which that was my previous plan. I was very, very limited. Sure, I work in buildings where most of the time I have Wi-Fi, but I was paying double what I'm paying now for what I think was less. I mean, I was paying more money for less of a good service. With Visible being just $25 a month because I am on just the standard plan, I find it just kind of hard to believe that anybody would pay for anything more than that because I just don't think it's very necessary. With Visible, you have unlimited calling, text, data, everything. You want it and you have unlimited of it. I mean, what's not to love about that? Since switching, I have never once had to think about how much data I'm using. Ever. When you check the Visible app, it doesn't even tell you how much data you're using every month because it simply just does not matter. There is no limit to data at all, like I had mentioned. Before, I was constantly checking my cellular provider app every couple of days before I had switched to Visible. So it was always in the back of my mind like, oh, I wonder how much data I'm using. Boy, I hope I have enough data to get me through the month. I'm going on a vacation. Well, I hope I have enough data for that. I mean, like I mentioned, I can't believe I didn't switch sooner because it has made a huge annoyance just completely disappear like it was never even there. Just like in all of my videos, I can only speak from my personal experience, right? Like I'm not going around asking people what phone carrier they have or somebody has Visible. Personally, I don't know anybody else that has Visible at the moment, so I don't know how the experience has been for other people. But what I can tell you so far about my coverage is that it's been nothing short of amazing. Ironically, in the town that I live in, apparently I heard that they took down a cell phone tower due to building construction or something like that, and they will put up the tower once the building is complete. So the only time that I have had any coverage issues is when I'm in certain parts of the town that I live in because of this tower issue like I had mentioned, which should be fixed eventually. But other than that, I have had great coverage everywhere that I have traveled, and I've just never had any issues really. A pretty good test of this was when I took a cruise to the Bahamas at the end of 2023. The port for the vacation was in Jacksonville, Florida. So when I traveled to Jacksonville, I thought this would be a good test for Visible since this was the first time I have used it in a different part of the country, since I live in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin and Florida are not close to each other at all if you are up on your geography. And did traveling to Florida make any difference at all in terms of data? Nope. Not one bit, actually. Right after I got off the airplane, I swiped up into the control center and turned off airplane mode, and my data worked just fine with no issues. Again, while traveling through Florida, I also did not have any issues that I can personally remember. Coverage in places that I visited while I was there was always 5G or 4G LTE, and I always thought it worked well. I have yet to ever see anything less than 1 bar of 4G LTE, which I think is pretty awesome with using the service for about 4 months. In terms of coverage, I basically don't have anything else to say other than it has just worked very well for me 99% of the time, except in very, very situational circumstances. Like, for example, on the cruise that I just mentioned, while I was in the middle of the ocean, for example, there I can confirm that my data did not work, but obviously that's kind of expected. A good thing that I did want to note is that I don't have to travel for remote areas very often. Like, due to my job, I'm generally always in the same area. I'm just a pretty normal guy who works primarily in an office job in a city for 8 hours a day, drives home, sleeps and eats and repeats every day. Joys of being an adult, right? So for my needs specifically, Visible works, and it works very, very well at a very, very reasonable price, a price that I don't think really anybody can beat. I also did want to touch on my other profession quick, as sometimes I do have to travel a little bit for real estate. For those that don't know, I am a real estate agent in central Wisconsin, so shout out if you need an agent here, call me. But anyways, sometimes this requires me to travel to show a house or maybe go to a potential future listing. So most recently, I had to use my phone for a very certain circumstance and I wasn't sure if it would work, but thankfully, it worked great, even better than I had expected. Something I will probably make another video on in the near future is how I finally got my first real estate listing, which was an amazing experience. So the situation was that I had an out-of-state buyer call me directly to do a virtual showing, which meant that I had to use FaceTime. I know for a fact that this house did not have Wi-Fi, so it did kind of cross my mind if I would be able to use FaceTime because this listing is kind of nowhere near my house and it's a little bit more remote. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to rely on FaceTime and my data to be able to do this. To my surprise, once I got to the house, I had 2 to 3 bars of 4G LTE, and again, just everything worked great. FaceTime was crystal clear and my data worked even better really than I had expected. I was able to do all of this without even once having to think about how much data I'm using or worrying about if I will ever go over my limit for the month, because that limit doesn't even exist. The craziest part to me is that if it was the reverse for my previous plan, so for example, like if Visible was $50 a month and my old plan was $25 a month for 2 gigabytes of data, I still almost think Visible would be worth it for the price. But the fact that Visible is cheaper than a lot of the standard phone plans and it's just easy to use, this just makes it a great value. Visible's platform, website, app, everything is just based upon simplicity, which I love and is actually what drew me to Visible in the first place. This means that anybody looking into the service, no matter how old or how young you are, can likely make the jump if you are thinking about it. I mentioned at the start of this video, but Visible always runs promotions or deals that allow you to jump on board for maybe a better price. Funny enough, I don't think they had anything like this when I applied to Visible, but at the time of recording of this video, they are giving you a guaranteed $100 if you trade in your phone, which actually convinced my girlfriend to also finally take the jump because she has an older phone that is not worth much. So check out Visible's website and maybe they'll have a deal going on when you are considering switching. I know this part of the video has probably been maybe a little boring because I don't have many bad things to say about Visible, but this is just my honest opinion so far. I have had no issues with the service. If I ever have issues in the future, I will definitely make a follow-up video to make it very clear. But for my purposes and for what I need a cellular service for, Visible just seems to have been the perfect fit for me. Do I think that Visible is perfect for everyone? I'm sure there are aspects of it that I have not covered just because I simply do not use them, like a mobile hotspot or potentially international calling or data. I just simply can't really judge those things because I don't use them and it's not part of my routine. Again, this is just kind of a review of what I have used with the service, and honestly, it's just been amazing. Do you have any questions about Visible? I'd like to know your thoughts on this service. While I did not mention much bad, I'm sure it has not been a perfect experience for everybody. Like for example, I heard that they do not have a great customer service, but again, I have not needed customer service, so I can't really judge, but please let me know your thoughts down below if you have tried this service. If you have not already checked out my last video where I show you how to switch to Visible from another carrier, please check that out. I think it's very helpful and an informative video that you might find interesting. So while you're down there, maybe check out some of the other content I have been making on my channel, and maybe you'll also find something that you're interested in next. Do you have any video suggestions? Please leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe also. Two other things I did want to mention quick is that I did put a referral link down in the description for anybody thinking about using this service. Obviously no pressure at all, but if you use this link, you'll actually save a little money and I can make a little money from it. But also I was recently approved for the monetization option on YouTube where people can donate. I did decide to turn this on just in case there's anybody out there that would like to support my channel in other ways than just watching the videos, but obviously that is not required. I just appreciate and love each and every one of you that watches my videos in the first place. Your support really does mean the world. But anyway, this has been Riley with the Riley Reform channel talking about Visible. Maybe another Visible video coming up for you in the near future, but I hope to see you in that next video, and I hope your day is pleasant as you are.